Hey everybody, what's going on? We're out here in the middle of the Mojave Desert with a bunch of jerks, having a good time. And we found some pretty good camp spots. And we've learned that with one member of our crew, if they say, might be all right, it means it's going to be an epic location. We've had an epic spot after epic spot. And we are going to take a look by popular request. I've been posting pictures on the gram, and everyone's like, I want to see a walk around of that G4. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to do a walk around. This is Alan's G4. Before we dive in, let's get to know Alan a little bit better. Why don't you give everyone your social security number?
Sure. 02478.
Tell us about you. Where are you from?
Yeah. No, I'm originally from Ireland.
Yeah.
I immigrated here in the 90s. I was in my 20s. Yeah, I've been living in California most of the time. Lived on the East Coast for a little bit.
And now you are you're based in Sacramento. You're in
Yeah.
Sacramento. And what do you do?
I make a living as a fireman in Sacramento.
Great.
Fire captain.
That is awesome. Thanks for that. First responder.
I love that job.
Tell us about the G4. Just basically about this vehicle, the G4. What is the year, and then a bit specifically about the G4 Land Rover.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you can't miss this thing, the bright orange.
Yeah.
And that can be explained. It's so in 2004, it was called the G4 Challenge. It was something that replaced Camel Trophy. And what they did was they manufactured vehicles for the G4 Challenge. And then what they did too is they went off and they took the same vehicles they had specially made for the challenge and put them out to market and sold them.
And do you know the specific differences, some of the specific differences of the G4 compared to the standard model?
Yeah, so mine is not exact as it was when it first rolled out,
Yep.
but will be very similar.
I
So-
saw some shiny parts underneath the suspension. I saw some new stuff.
You have to try and find them, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a HSC package, which is a higher package. Just in the bumper, they just, they recessed in a winch. And then the drivetrain was pretty much the same. And then just in the rear, you just don't have or didn't have any of the extra seats in the back or extra, seatbelt stuff like that. The rear cargo area was left free. And then, of course, it has a central locking diff. This year, this is kind of a year when Land Rover was going with traction control. A very typical Land Rover, Range Rover thing where they're ahead of the game in terms of the off-road technology. So this was kind of a newer thing that they had developed. When I got it originally, it had a very similar light setup. And of course, they just aged out and broke. And, they were halogen and it sucked a ton of energy out of the battery and it would run the battery down. So I updated, but wanted to keep that kind of look.
Yep.
So I went with PA again, and they're LED and they're super bright. And
Cool.
these nicely complement on the front, the high beam. And then the two center ones, again, on the trail, they just point them out a little further.
Yep.
But the nice thing with the two side ones is, again, they're just oriented out on the side so you can make out the side of the trail. And of course, two separate switches, so I'm not blinding the driver who's directly in front of me.
All right. Why don't we walk around this thing?
Yeah.
Take a look. All right. Snorkel.
So this is a Mantec snorkel. Mantec, does that, a lot of stuff for Rover. And the reason that it's on there is I was messing about with some friends, and one of them also had a Discovery, and of course you challenge each other and you try and go as deep as you can in mud and water. And it was that close to water locking my engine. So it was actually, I was working with a mechanic at the time, and he was like, you probably should put a snorkel on this thing.
If you're going to run it like
if you're
that.
going to be,
Yeah.
if you're going to do something as silly as that.
Now, you have the snorkel running reverse out. A lot of people run it running forward,
Yeah.
and a lot of people run it running sideways.
Sideways.
So, any reason for it? What's your rationale
Yeah, no,
there?
because I've had that one where, people come up and they go, hey man, it's pointing the wrong way.
It's
And,
not, by the way.
yeah,
It's
I know.
not. Yeah.
So it's for me, it's interesting, you just
Yeah.
talk, because it's something that comes up, you have a snorkel, you end up having conversations about it.
Yeah.
So for my setup, because I'm typically, like we're on the Mojave Road, it's dusty.
Yes, exactly.
For have that oriented backwards means there's less chance of driving the dust and dirt down his way.
You're interested more in clean air, not cool air
Not cool air,
necessarily.
exactly.
You're not ramjetting air into the intake. You are
exactly,
clean air.
yeah. And that's where
Yeah.
I totally get it, where you point it forward, you make it very large because you're just trying to force cold air down there.
Yeah.
That's not the goal. It's to try and keep water from splashing up into the engine,
Yep.
and then also keep the dust down.
So I see you have the only tire that matters on here.
Yes. I love that tire.
So I see you're running BFGoodrich tires. You have the all-terrain. Tell us about your suspension. Anything different about your suspension?
Yeah, they're just bigger springs.
Okay.
RT Fab, which is a couple of lads out on the East Coast. They make a great spring. They also give me some other bits and pieces to assist with the lift, making it a 3-inch lift. And then the idea is to, an approximate 33-inch tire. Because the goal was, as you know, you're lifting it so you can put a bigger tire on it, right? And also too, I wanted to go with a tire that is something that you can have in any tire store. There's no special ordering involved.
Yeah.
It's a size that's quite popular, and a brand too that's popular. So.
Tell us about your cockpit, the interior. Anything you want to point out there?
I just like having, over time, you just find there's things that you find yourself reaching for a lot, and there's other things that you don't. So it just evolves over time. So for me, when I'm sitting in here, my cockpit is pretty simple. There's not a lot of stuff in here. Just the phone's mounted, and sometimes I'll have Gaia or some other mapping stuff. I've got my radio, ham, which seems to be kind of where more people are going towards ham. Getting the licensing
that's true. It's just so much better.
It's easy to, the licensing is not very difficult. There's people that help you with the testing within clubs and stuff. Go
and get your ham license.
Yeah, and I guess it's great because there's people out there that'll help you through the testing process too. And then once you have it, it's great. So it's an inexpensive radio, didn't cost an awful lot. Got it on Amazon. Had a friend, pick the right one, and you just wire it to your battery. And
did you mention the name of it? Which one you went with?
It's TYT.
How long have you had it?
So I've had that just over a year.
And it's working fine?
And it's working fine, yeah.
Cool.
I'm sure you could get, something a bit more steady, but it works, does the job. And then just simple things like, your sunscreen, my bug spray, the controller for the winch, it's all just in this area. As a pair of gloves, 1 or 2 simple tools I think I might need, depending on what I've been doing with the vehicle. Just a simple, like a, 13mm wrench, just so I can, the rooftop tent, so I can tighten it down if I need to.
Cool. Rack, is that what came with the G4?
So yes,
aftermarket?
Safety device, English company. So this is what they went with the G4. So yeah, when I bought it, this is what was on it, and it's showing its age, but it continues to work. I did modify it a little bit recently by chopping off some of the basket just so I could get the rooftop tent down a bit lower. That's really the only change I've made to it.
It's a solid one-piece unit.
Simple one-piece unit.
And tell me about your sliders.
What I went with was true Atlantic British. They have like videos that typically go with a lot of their products, so you can do it at home yourself.
That's one of the first things you want to do. People ask us all the time, hey, what's your order of upgrade? And for us, it's tires, suspension, sliders, and then basically work from the ground up. What about the middle row? Anything, is that just what's going on there? Anything?
No, so for me, it all depends on the journey, where you're going and who's going. So, on this trip, it's just me, but it's not unusual for my wife and my daughter to come as well. So, like most, for me, what I do is the rear seats, I can either fold them up, or sometimes I'll just unbolt a seat. That creates a huge amount of space back here. Then on the seat as well, we have the biggest bag is all the recovery gear. Hoping to not use it, but it has been used a couple of times. And it's your basic recovery bag. We've got the straps, and we have the D-rings, and we have it's a simple, but so far everything that I've needed has been in that bag when I needed it.
Cool.
For recovery. And then just bags with tools, spare parts, fluids. And then for airing up and airing down, went with Viair.
Very popular.
Very popular. Yeah, you can just pop into a lot of stores and just buy right off the shelf.
If I were to ask you from 10 psi to 35 psi on these tires, how long do you think that would take per tire? With that
It didn't. It doesn't feel very long. Maybe 5 minutes.
Okay.
And I know you can go.
That's reasonable.
That's reasonable for me.
I'm
Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you can go bigger on compressors, right? You can go as big as you want.
All right. Hey, I saw you have Overland Pro's rooftop tent.
Yes.
Tell us about it. And then we'll look at the other side of it too.
Yeah. Well, I was introduced to the tent by Ted and Nick, two guys who are club members with Northern California Land Rover clubs, and I'm a member of that.
The guy that recommends okay campsites.
Okay campsites, and they turn out to be amazing. What I like about this tent is that it fits for the environment that we're in right now. So just in the desert, it just comes out of nowhere, especially the springtime. You just get those pummeling winds. And if you leave it just the way it is and just pop it up and you don't have the rain fly on there, it comes very taut, which means you don't get vibration, you don't get that flapping noise as much. I mean, you can't remove it all, but it has that. And again, too, you know, as I think I've mentioned this more than once already, but you know, as in terms of pricing, you know, it's a reasonable for what you're getting. Yeah. You know, you're getting a lot of tent for the price that you're paying.
You don't need a rain fly for it as well, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's not. So the material, waterproof. It's ripstop. Yep. You know, the big YKK zippers, which I have torn, you know, pulled and tugged, and yeah, I've battered this, and it still looks good, but I've battered it a little bit, you know, but it's holding up great.
Okay, so is this typically how you set up your camp?
Yeah, this is very typical. I am like a lot of people, which is, you know, when I drive this home, I have to now, you know, like dropping kids off, you know, at practice, you know, Girl Scouts, you know, picking up the groceries. Yep. I can't have all of this in here. So for me, it's I've got 3 of these wolf pack boxes. Love these things. Yeah, and these boxes are set up all the time. When I finish a trip, I just, you know, put things back in that I used, stack them, and then slide them on a shelf in the garage back home.
So they're good to go.
So good to go. And that goes for the cooker. That goes for the ARB. I do, especially coming up, you know, in summertime, I'll keep the fridge in here because it's just super handy to keep, you know, cold sodas and stuff. But everything I'll back the vehicle up, grab the things, slide them in, and I have it set up in such a way that, you know, even like there's freeze-dried food and ways of getting water and heat and, you know, cooking food, and it's ready to go. And then you can add if you want to, you know, for the journey if I want to, but mostly I don't because I have what I need. Yeah.
I'm looking, it looks like the categories of these 3 cases are food, utensils, pots and pans, kitchen, like cooking.
Yeah, like,
is that about right?
That's about right. And the only thing is just that last box down there, which is the one on the bottom, extra propane, heat, lighting, extra headlamps, and then just you know, fan and other stuff that can be placed inside a tent. So those things are kind of a goes by priority in terms of what's going to get used. So even on this trip, that box in the bottom, because my girls are not with me, I haven't used it.
All right. Yeah, it looks like a really straightforward kit.
Yeah, it's super simple. And then because it's a G4, what they did was there used to be seats back here. Remove those, and it's just plastic wall with a lid. So it's fabulous. So I can put in a ton of stuff on either side. And this goes with me all the time. So toolkit, rain gear, these fabulous things. If you run your battery dry, you just hook it on and get going.
Oh, are those anti-grav?
Yeah,
they are. Yeah, those are very good.
Yeah,
really cool.
You know, jet boil, ready to go with coffee. Yep. Because, you know, sometimes you don't want to do that. Don't have time. And then on the other side, tire repair kit, more tools, fluids, just more stuff, you know, to kind of keep the vehicle going, you know. Great. Yeah. And then lots of stickers.
Well, yeah, you have to add the horsepower.
Yes.
You know,
this changes a lot.
Adds a little bit of horsepower.
Yeah, and this super simple thing, it was from guys up in Bend, Oregon. Columbia Overland, that's it. I had to look for the sticker. But yeah, super simple. It's just what was here kind of was stuck out in a lot of plastic. Just unscrewed it, you know, recycled it, and then just
And it's just the equivalent of
It's
like
just-
a blank.
It's a blank.
Yeah,
It's exactly
great.
what it is, and
That's
it's
cool.
fab. Yeah. The only thing is, like, we were talking about just strapping things down. Everyone has a way of doing it. So what I did was I just got cargo netting. I believe it's U.S. cargo. It's the same netting they use in the back of semi trucks. It's bomb proof. It's crazy strong.
I know, talking to Nick, that the cover is taller than it needs to be to make it easier.
Again, a simple idea, you know, just someone who's actually out there using the tent and like saying, all right, this is something I would like. And I was impressed with that too. I don't have a lot of stuff in there right now, but you can leave sleeping bag, clothes, you know, you can leave items, compressible items up there. And that's kind of also been the debate too about I'm putting a rooftop tent up and I'm taking away storage area that I have up top.
Yep.
But you're also putting things like sleeping bags, jackets, you know,
Right.
clothing and stuff,
That
which
takes up a lot of
takes
space.
takes away, yeah, which frees up space in the interior of the vehicle, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not putting a tent in there as well, of course.
Let's see, what else? Is there anything on the passenger side that to point out, or is it basic?
Again, basic. It's
Yeah.
just kind of like just handy, a couple of bits and pieces, you know, extra straps because you know we have the basket. I have this basket up front. I kept that, which is handy, especially for things like firewood. That extra bag, or actually even an extra ground tent. I can just slide it up there. The straps stay here because there's room for them, and I can just quickly do it. And then I don't think we need this in the Mojave, but you know, don't forget your bear spray.
Yeah.
You know, quick access for that. Yeah, that's it really. And then
Cool.
I keep typically I love paper maps. That's my thing.
They work without batteries.
They work without batteries. They're fail safe. You know, just look at your topography, and you can typically figure out where you are on a paper map and get yourself where you need to be, which is nice. So yeah, keep them up top, and then as you go through each adventure, you know, you end up with a couple of maps you like, and they just stay in there.
Tell us just some of the driving characteristics. How do you like driving the rig?
Yeah.
It's been performing great out here. We're on day 16, 5, 4, I forget.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been out here,
We've been out here for a couple of days.
tromping through the desert. How
Yeah.
do you like driving it?
No, you know, we made this recent change in suspension.
Yeah.
You know, one of the, like, you know, you learn as you do it, right? As you go along. I'm very happy with it right now. Previously, I had smaller wheels, so, you know, I was inclined to hit things periodically on the center diff, you know, just kind of hit stuff, kiss stuff, but never had on the D2, that front differential is actually a lot thicker than it was on the original Discovery, so it is actually quite thick, but again, I didn't have any of that on this trip. The Old Man Emu springs that I had, they were just older and they were rated for a lighter load. And you know, when you're adding a lot of water and fuel and you know other things, you just need a bigger, stronger spring, which is what I have, and that's performed great. You know, it feels very solid on the freeway at freeway speeds, 75 miles an hour, 4.6 liter V8. You know, with they call it the Bosch engine, so a lot of the stuff that's on top involved with, you know, the air and fuel management is basically a BMW or Volkswagen product.
What is cruising speed on the freeway? If you like a comfortable cruising speed, how fast will it go?
So right now with the tires, suspension, motors, everything is going, it can do 75.
That's great.
And it's without the vibration, without excessive noise. You know, the steering wheel feels good. Everyone's comfortable. Not an excessive amount of noise. You know, it's an older vehicle, so you know seals and things aren't as good as they used to be. But it's actually surprising. Yeah, it has held up well over time. It's actually a comfortable ride. So that fatigue that you might get as a driver, you know, especially getting to your destination, you know, it's not that bad. You're pretty comfortable. I mean, you know, leather seats and air conditioning. I mean, yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
That's great. Alan, thanks for sharing your ride.
Pleasure.
Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to? Anything like that? Does this have an online presence? Can people check anything out, or are you Mr. Stealth guy, or what?
Yeah, no, there's nothing like that. I mean, I live in Sacramento.
Yeah.
You can't miss this vehicle.
What's your unit? What's your fire department unit?
Yeah, Station 15.
Station 15.
Yeah, they call us the Nighthawks.
The Nighthawks. So
Yeah.
thanks to all those guys. Thanks to your group.
Yeah.
And,
I have to say hi
yeah.
to Maeve and Jill. Very important.
Hello to Maeve and Jill.
Yeah.
Right on. Good deal. All right.
We miss them.
Hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we still got a few more days on the trail.
Yes, we do.
Let's not break it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we do, we'll have fun putting it back together.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right on. Cool.